Good evening, family. Hope everybody is having a great Wednesday evening. Let me start out by saying Happy New Year. This is our very first iteration of our Minding Our Business Financial Academy, the Wednesday Live. So, thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are joining, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, and the various platforms who are broadcasting. So, I just want to say Happy New Year. We made it. 2026, and it's starting off pretty eventful. If you've been tracking what's happening in our news, world events, current events, politics, financial news, everything, this 2026, man, it is starting off with a bang, literally, for some people. So we're going to just get right into it. Thank you again. For those of you maybe joining for your first time, and for the people who join us regularly, we do this every single Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live every week. We only spend about 25, 30 minutes talking about something that's really relevant to us right now in our financial management, stewardship, wealth building journey. My name is Lionel. I am the lead instructor, lead servant in the Minding Our Business community. I'm really here to serve you with the information that I've garnered and with the skill set that the Lord has put in me. So I'm doing this from a purpose position. So I appreciate all of you for your support. And tonight, again, it's the first live for January. We just got through the Christmas holiday, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever your religious distinction is. You probably had some sort of end of the year culmination celebration. And then there's all the holidays from a national perspective. Whether you're abroad, you might have celebrated Boxing Day and New Year's Day. I'm of Barbadian descent, so we celebrate Old Year's Night, as we call it. So despite where you were coming from, we're fresh off the holiday season, and this is just a timely message about how we rebound, how we reset, how we recover financially from the holidays. So that's the topic we're going to focus on tonight. Thank you all for joining us, and without further ado, let's get right into this information. So I'm going to share a slide with you, and we're going to start out looking at our topic for tonight. So with my producer's help, we're going to pull up the slide deck here, and we're going to just get right into this content. Hopefully, we have some support here to get this all up and running. So we're a little delayed here. Let's see. Producer, can we pull up our slide deck? Sweet. Thank you. All right. So again, first live of the year. And I think the most pertinent topic, apart from New Year's resolutions, goal setting, forecasting for the year, early tax preparation, depending on who you are, whether you run a business or you ascribe to any of those sorts of start of the year activities. I'm a big goal setter, not a really resolution person, but we all know the history with the resolutions. Today actually is the day that I think they say 90% of the people quit their resolutions, the 7th day of January. But this is going to be a day that we reflect, and we're actually going to start our reset. So we're going to look to counter that psychological condition of quitting resolutions in January. So our financial reset. So this is about how to recover from December without shame. So that's really the focus of this. This is really an introspective look and an internal review of what we've done from a financial standpoint, Again, many of us may be goal setting, forecasting. Finances are always a big part of people's goals and their forecast for the year. But guess what? Many of us came in with baggage. Many of us came in with residual financial commitments, obligations, deficiencies from what I talked about in the very beginning, the holiday season. So let's get right into this. How do you reset, Lionel? How do you reset? So you guys all know I usually try to, not try to, we do. We ground all of our teaching around some biblical principle. So let's start with this. Lamentations 3 chapter 3, verses 22 through 23. I'm going to read it to you from that New International Version. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. That's great to hear. For his compassion never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Wow. What a powerful word from Lamentations. So, what is our translation? How do we interpret that for today, for what we are trying to accomplish with this reset? A bad financial month does not define you, but avoiding it will delay your breakthrough, the fixing of it, that abundance that we talk about, our wealth journey, whatever you want to sort of classify this as. If you're a human being, despite being a billionaire or not, everyone has financial pursuits, goals, ambitions that they have for themselves that's probably beyond the place where they are right now. Despite your faith, whatever you believe in, money is a big part of our day to day. So let's start there and acknowledge it. So, although you just came through the holidays and you might have spent way more than you planned, I heard an interesting story last night about someone who had this absorbent credit card bill, and they were just in a position now of antagonizing other people, trying to call in all their debts to sort of make up for this misappropriation that they did in December. So remember, a bad financial month does not define you. Your behaviors don't define you, right? Despite, again, whatever your religious distinction is, we all are children of the Creator if you believe in something bigger than yourself. So you have an identity, and it's not in your bank account, it's not in your debt, it's not in your credit card statement. So let's first get that on the table. All right. But we can't avoid these numbers. These numbers are indicators of behaviors that are robbing us of our destination. So that's what we're looking to do. Course correct, not be shameful, not indict ourselves, not beat ourselves up. Course correct, right? If you were on a hike and you're not ending up the place that you're planning, you would simply just course correct, right? You wouldn't beat yourself up. You're really just in survival mode. You're trying to get to your destination. And that's simply what we're trying to do. Let's recalibrate our GPSs. Let's get to our destination. So why does January feel so heavy? That's the sort of big question here. And like I said, you know the spending that you've been doing. And as a result, you probably have not been wanting to look at your bank account, your credit card statements, logging into the various apps that you may have on your phone or your computer. You might be avoiding those right now because this is the time when statements are produced within the first week and a half of every month. And that will be the true reflection. So if you didn't leverage any of the tools that we shared with you in December, your gift tracker tool, which we were giving out, if you didn't have a budget for all the people in your family, then you probably don't know what that real number was, right? I talked about some of the hidden costs. If you travel to go see family, if you had an event at your house and there was food and drinks and all the other celebratory items, that had a cost. And I'm not sure if you had that actually fully baked into your budget. You might have been thinking about the gifts, but you might not have thought about the extras of life. And so now that these statements are coming in, you may be avoiding them a little bit because it's really going to reflect the damage that you actually did. So again, Your savings may have dipped, and we have all kind of economic factors happening in the country today. Unemployment is still a real thing for many people. So there's a lot of economic challenges that we're facing, right? So again, you may be trying to sort of hold things at bay by just not having a real conversation and having a real look at your state of affairs, right? There's a reason why presidents and prime ministers and leaders of organizations have a State of the Union, a state address, all these things in the very beginning of the year, because they want to let you know where we are right now. So I think that's very important for us as stewards to do that within the areas that we have authority, is to have a sort of state of the affairs. And that's where we're going to talk about tonight. How do you do that? What's the framework to sort of do that, and then sort of reset the clock or recalibrate, as I said, or course correct, right? So there may be some guilt creeping in, but we're going to address that. So avoidance. Let's talk about this. We're avoiding it. What does that look like? I mentioned a couple of these things. So you're not checking your accounts, not keeping up to date on your statements. If you're a budgeting person and you have a spreadsheet, maybe you're a couple months behind, you haven't filled it all out. If you're a person that owns a business and needs to start prepping for taxes, maybe you're just feeling a little disdain with that process. So you're not beginning to balance your book, gather receipts, look at your deductions and expenses and all the things that you should be doing right now. That's avoidance, right? And then that feeling that it'll all work itself out. If I don't look at it right now, I don't have to look at it today. I'll look at it tomorrow. It'll work itself out. I'll get to that in March. I have till April 15th, right? That's avoidance, right? So avoidance delays your healing from whatever you just experienced. That's just a fact, right? And awareness of where you have done wrong or misappropriated or not made the best decision is actually the beginning to course correct, which is actually progress, right? So we avoid things because we don't want to sort of deal with it, but understand that avoiding it delays acknowledgement of it, which then is delaying your progress towards the cure, right? So let's just be very clear about that. So, how do we deal with this? Keyword, I think I just said it, acknowledge. So, 72-hour financial reset, right? So, this is essentially today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I could get this done by the weekend. If I chunk it out, we all are working, doing different things. But if you take an hour or so over the next 3 days, I believe you can get through this reset. Step number one, acknowledge. What do you need to do? Pull December transaction history statements. If you're someone who's has a P&L, maybe Q4 wasn't completed. So then you got to go all the way back, right? October, November, December. You got to get all those statements in. You have to get them to your bookkeeper or whoever helps you manage your P&L. And you have to find out, what are your totals? How did you end 2025, right? Step one, pull your numbers. Step two, look at the totals, right? Within step one, I'm sorry, I should say A and B, right? Then as you figure out now, okay, this is what Q4 looked like. This is what December looked like. This is the spending that happened. This is the amount of debt that I have. This was the amount of surplus I may have. This was my income. This was my expenditure, right? We're using fiscal language, right? Then you want to now address the emotional. What did I overspend on? What was it that was surprising? Maybe it was that thing Lionel talked about. Oh, I should factor in the meal cost into my holiday budget. Who does that, right? That would have been surprising if you actually went and looked at what you spent on groceries and all the things to have all of the experience that you wanted for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, right? Was it worth it? Just ask yourself that question. Was that worth the expenditure? Take a stewardship mindset here. Remember, these resources don't belong to us. They're entrusted to us, right? To do what? Kingdom activity. Was that kingdom activity? So ask yourself flat out, was that kingdom activity? Was I acting on behalf of the owner, who ultimately is the Lord, right? The earth is the Lord, everything and everyone in it, and the fullness thereof, right? If you're a person who ascribes to the Bible, that's the language of the Bible, right? So we look at these things and we really have a real self-assessment of the numbers as well as the emotional, right? What wasn't worth it? What was outside of my stewardship role? What did I spend these resources on that wasn't kingdom activity? What was not bringing heaven down to earth, right? So if you supported ministries, if you the place of worship I attend, we have something called the Big Give at the end of the year, right? And we are giving to that ministry, and that ministry has already communicated and allocated those funds to go directly towards kingdom activities, right? Ministries in Africa and abroad where they're building wells and supporting hospitals and the poor and the fed, and even here locally, different food pantries in different places. That's kingdom activity, right? So maybe a part of your budget went to that, maybe not. But again, look at your totals, do an assessment of the fiscal numbers, then do an emotional behavioral assessment, asking yourself these questions, right? Numbers are neutral. They are not moral. They're simply informational, right? The moral lens then is applied when you look at your behavior and you look at those things from an emotional standpoint. But the numbers, they're neutral. They're just giving you the information based on your activity. And then you, as a steward, have to then decide, was the activity productive and within the wheelhouse of what I want to accomplish as a steward? That was step one. All right, let's progress. Step two, assessment. Now you have to look at what was already done. That's the rear view mirror. That's where you came from. Now you got to go and look in the windshield at the landscape in front of you. Where am I right now, today? Right. So again, if we're taking the 72-hour plan to this thing, I'm looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm gonna take an hour out. Where am I today? What is my balance on my bank accounts, my checking and my savings? Right. If you're a part of the MOB community, you have a lot more accounts than that. And what is your opportunity fund? What is your operating account looking like? What is your giving account looking like? Right? What is your maintenance fund looking like? So that's where you're going in, looking at all your balances. Then you want to look at your debt, which is usually a reflection of your lifestyle. Where my credit card balances are right now. Where are they right now? Then what am I bringing in right now? Start of the year. For some people, I know the institution, when I spent many years in corporate America, right about this time between now and March is when we would do end of the year evals from last year. We'd figure out what type of raise we are or are not getting. We used to get bonuses in March. So then we would find out what additional income we would have coming in. But I'm sure you have all kinds of things in your life. But now is the time to make an assessment of, where are my balances? What does my income look like? Then what are my current obligations? For me, I have kids that are in college. So one of the things I was having a conversation about this week is tuition that's due, right? For one of my sons. So that's a real conversation. That's a conversation about an obligation that I have that's significant, that's tied to what? Kingdom activity, educating, raising, rearing this child, right? So these are the decisions you have to make, but you have to go through these assessments. You cannot tell yourself, I'm going to wait till I get my tax return in April, and then when I get that bonus, I'll figure it out. And that's not a plan. That's an assumption. It's not a plan. All right. So step one was, let me just bounce back there. You acknowledge first, get your totals, right? Then ask yourself the questions about the activity. Step two, assess where you are right now. What are your balances, debt and cash flow, right? What is your income like? What obligations do you have that are impending? Probably Q1 is what I would look at first. I would look at what obligations I have Q1. Q1 is the first 3 months of the year, right? Step three, the adjustment. What changes do I need to make immediately right now in January before I get to April when I get my tax return or whatever it is you're planning on, your bonus in March or whatever that thing is? What adjustments do I need to make now to meet my obligations and begin to make a plan for the debt that I incurred last month? So these are practical adjustments. One of the things I love, I actually did this physically on Saturday. So on Saturday, went to a men's group gathering, and the Lord dropped in my spirit to fast that day. So I didn't eat on Saturday. Many of us need to do that financially as well. Just pause for a second, time out. You know what? Next week, that is January. Let me get the date for you here, right? Starting Sunday, January 11th, I'm not going to spend any money. So I'm going to get all my shopping and groceries and meal prep and all that done this weekend. And then from the 11th through the 17th, that's going to be my financial fast. I'm not going to spend any money during that week. But in order to do that, you have to do the first two steps to be able to plan that adjustment. And then you'll understand the magnitude of that adjustment and how it can make up for some of the expenditure you may have incurred last month and then some of the obligations you have for this month. Reset your weekly spending limits. We talk about having a weekly meeting and looking at how you're spending your money. Reset those limits. Maybe you reduce your limits. Maybe if you had a significant increase in income, maybe you're starting a new job. That's great. Awesome. I'm glad and happy and celebrate that for you. Maybe you've had some more revenue, a side hustle, a business that maybe is tied to the holidays, and you're coming out of the holidays with some bonus revenue. Maybe that's your time of the year. And then how can I apply this to my plan? How can I put this to work in my opportunity fund? How can I invest some of this? How can I pay down my debt with some of this extra money? So that's where you want to reset your limits. It doesn't always mean we're shrinking. For most people, it does, because we live in a consumerist society. So for many of us, we're living right at our means, if not beyond our means. But that's not everybody's situation. Some people come out of the holidays with extra money, depending on the industries and businesses and things that they have going on. So maybe that's your catch-up time, that you use that extra funds you have from the end of the year, and then you springboard it into this year. Adjust your savings. Maybe temporary, right? So maybe, hey, I got a lot of debt to pay off. Let me scale back my savings rate just for a short time in Q1. Let me pay down some of this debt that is at 25, 29, 34% and get this out of my life. And then I'll go back and increase my savings rate in Q2 or Q3 or Q4, right? Create that January recovery plan, right? Maybe your recovery plan is not only just taking that financial fast where you're done spending money for a week. Maybe it's, okay, I'm going to work on my side hustle a little bit more this year. Maybe it's I take on a second job or something in that nature. There's a whole host of things you can do to create a recovery plan, but it should be multi-tiered, right? It should have at least three tiers or three supporting things to get it going. So it should be a combination of increasing your income, reducing your spending, and reducing your debt, right? Or increasing your savings, reducing your spending, reducing your debt, right? Whatever mix of things fits your unique situation. And here's my quote: stewards, we don't panic, we just recalibrate. That's what a steward does. A manager, a good manager, I was a manager of fairly large team. I actually had two teams at one time when I was managing, and we would go into some emergent situations, right? Some contingent situations that we had to move quickly. And we basically would have to put the work down that we were already working on, scale out this new project, and facilitate the success of that project because people's lives actually depended on it. It wasn't directly connected to our work, but the people we were educating were people who were first responders who are working bedside in healthcare. That's what I did for 16 years. And so that's what I would do as a manager. I would look at the projects, I would look at the situation my team was in, and recalibrate the plan based on the priorities, right? That is the job of a good steward. All right. So that is the first 3 steps of this plan. All right. Step number 4. Now we've got to anchor this. This thing has got to be tied down to something to secure it, right? So what systems in December are worth keeping, right? And then what things do I not want to repeat? So if you started out with us in December, having those weekly meetings and planning and implementing budgets and those things, then you want to keep those systems going, right? If you did not implement any systems and you were just sort of playing it by whatever was in your bank account, whatever was in your wallet at the time, those are systems you want to look at. That actually isn't a system at all, but it's a system of chaos. But you want to make sure I don't repeat those systems, right? And then you want to begin to implement structure from January, right? And then anything you do for 30 days becomes habit, right? Anything you do for 3 months becomes lifestyle, right? So you want to remember that. So you want to start now this weekly meeting cadence. Meet with yourself every week. If you need a template to support you with that, comment in the chat and we'll get you a copy of our weekly agenda as well as the weekly meeting template. And you can sit down, write in your spending totals for your categories for what you did last week and what you plan on doing this week. And you begin this meeting cadence every single week and get yourself in the habit of planning out how your money moves, allocating your finances, right? That's what a steward does. A steward is a manager conducting activities, right? That is what a steward does, right? And they do it with intentionality and they do it with much care because, again, a steward is just managing resources that are entrusted to them. It doesn't belong to them. They acknowledge that there is an owner greater than themselves who is entrusting them to these activities, right? So you want to have your weekly meetings. You want to be able to track, plan it out, then review it within that meeting. You want to have a spending plan in place for the different categories of your life. And then you need some sort of accountability. Someone who's going to say, hey, did you get that done last week the way that you did, the way that you said you would? So the accountability is key for us as human beings. So again, January doesn't need energy, it needs structure, right? A lot of times we're like, oh, I'm burnt out from the holidays. No, you didn't have structure throughout the holidays, and that's why you feel that way. So it's all about implementing a structure, a process that you can follow to be a good steward. All right, so just to recap, right, we're right at 29 minutes after 6 here. So acknowledge first, acknowledge the behaviors, what was actually done over the last month. 2, assess where you are right now. Adjust to where you need to be to either recover, get back on track, or meet your goals and plans. And then anchor all of that into a system that has either a daily, weekly, or monthly frequency or cadence. If you're not doing it regularly, it's not a system. It's just chaos. So you need to have, like I said, either that weekly financial meeting with yourself. And if you're part of the community, you know we do the weekly meeting. And then every month, we're updating our P&L, our profit and loss statement. So we know month by month where we're tracking. That is a system. That's a system. That's what you're looking for. So you don't rise to the level of your goals. I think the author of Atomic Habits made this quote. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Right? So just to recap, acknowledge, assess where you are, adjust, and then anchor all that in an actual system that you can engage, repeat, and execute on some sort of frequency or cadence, daily, weekly, or monthly. All right, so drop a reset in the comments. If you are interested in getting our worksheet, I actually derived a worksheet that you can go through this process. It's just a framework to guide you through it. So you're just not doing it and, going back, what did Lionel say? What were the steps? I know they were all A's. I don't know. Well, we built it into a framework for you. So remember, December, the debt incurred, that does not define you, right? And January doesn't have to defeat you. You don't have to avoid it, right? You can embrace it, acknowledge it, and adjust, right? And then that's your reset. You reset and then you rise to the level of the system that you've implemented into your life. So let's take a look at this sheet that I've designed for you here. So here are the 4 steps. You want to first go in there, acknowledge. You want to look through those statements in your budgets. Go ahead and fill this out. All the different sections, the gifts, the food, the travel, the entertainment, the New Year's Eve party, the whatever it was. Get all that in there. Then assess. Go ahead and get your balances in. If you need to add some sections to this, your checking, your savings, all the various accounts you have, go ahead and total those up, get your balances onto the sheet, then begin to write where your adjustments are. Where do I need to reset? I need to spend a lot less on takeout, right? So maybe that's a meal prep. Maybe that's some other contingency you put in, right? I need to stop spending money on credit cards. Well, you probably just got a bunch of gifts. You don't need to go out and buy more clothes and take advantage of all the sales that they'll be marketing this month, right? So then you set that financial fasting period up 1 week out of the 4 weeks this month. Choose not to spend any money for 7 days, or try to go as long as your situation allows you to, but just find a increment of time that you can not spend money, or you can defer spending money. I don't want to use the word not. Then anchor this in a system. If you don't have a system, again, it has to be some sort of system you can implement of meeting with yourself, reviewing your numbers, taking accountability, making the small adjustments. You want to do that. That's a system. And then find an accountability partner. Find someone else. You always have the water cooler conversation. If it's a coworker you trust, or it's a girlfriend, or one of your homies that you guys had that conversation about being over budget or being broke, or whatever that conversation is that came up financially. We do it all the time. And maybe you just make a commitment to each other right then and say, you know what, I'm not repeating this again. I'm looking for somebody to partner with. I've been following this dude on YouTube. His name is Lionel. He got this MOB thing and he gives out free templates. Let's just download the template and let's work it together. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get some accountability in place. And then your final reflection, I'm choosing to be a steward who. So again, there's a framework that I ascribe to. It's the be, do, have. This is the be. I am a steward who, whatever. Define that for yourself. And then once you define what that person is, then you do the things that type of person does, and you'll have the results of that type of an individual. Be, do, have. Don't get it out of order. All right. Thank you so much for spending this last half hour with me. I appreciate you. Thank you all for joining us. Again, next Wednesday, 6 p.m. We'll be on all these same platforms. Give us a like, share, whatever, subscribe, all that crap. But anyway, love you, appreciate you, thank you. I'm out of here. Take care. Thanks for joining us at the MOB Academy. Now stop scrolling and go mind your business.